Another sound check, making sure everything's set up and good to go. There we go. It's kicking in finally. Seen a notification with YouTube, so it's my second attempt. Try to get everything set up and ready to go. Check the audio on YouTube, put it on the live stream playlist. Give it a thumbnail too. This is going to be an episode of the cut, so it's actually going to be the last one for the year, and we'll be back next year with another season of it, but this is the time to end it for the year. It sounds good on YouTube. Hit refresh on Rumble because it's just what we got to do. Sounds good on Rumble. DLive is up and going. Hit play. Now we go to kick is up. Sounding good. I'll go ahead and go to Twitch and find out how that sounds too. Might as well. Okay, it sounds good. So, like I said, this is going to be an episode of The Cut. I'm going to step away, give me some coffee, things like that, and I will be back to start the show. This is the recap for the season, so no reading, just going back over the stuff that I've covered. Hope you guys enjoy. I'll be right back. I'm going to put some break music on from Mr. Robot, aka Illuminati, on Rumble. You can find his channel at Hacker Radio. If you guys like the music, stop by, tell him you like it, give him some support. Other than that, I'm going to shut up and put the music on.
Awakening from an epic dream, awakening from the long dark night. Awakening from history, awakening from duality. The liberation of the human soul to consciousness of the one and all. The activation of the sacred plan, the birthing of a new man. A new man. When the light within is revealed, all the pain and suffering shall be healed, and the truth of love is our destiny, living on the earth in peace and harmony. Perceptions, awakening to the joy of life. Awakening to a new dimension, awakening to a paradise. The illusion of separation disappearing into unity, into the source of a high vibration, into the wonder of a mystery. A mystery. When the light within is revealed, all the pain and suffering shall be healed, and the truth of love is our destiny, living on the earth in peace and harmony. Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles. Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, and if Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Mr. Robot rolled round. Mr. Robot rolled round. And if Mr. Robot rolled and rolled round, and if Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Here is an exercise demonstrating the union of in at the end of words. Dividing and gliding and sliding and falling and brawling and sprawling and driving and riving and striving. Dividing and gliding and sliding and falling and brawling and sprawling and driving and riving and driving. Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Plus 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Plus 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Plus 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Plus 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles. Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, and if Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Mr. Robot Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, and if Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Hardly had his Hail Highness heard the easy hedgehog when he hit the humming bee by the hunter who had horrible beetles in the human hall. I love to hear the horse's hard iron hooves go hammer, 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 hammer on the easy highway. I hit my horse hard. I'm hurrying around to hunt up hogs. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter, is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Plus 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Theophilus Thistler, thistle sifter.
Once the gods carved earth like a cosmic chessboard, Poseidon claimed Atlantis, his starborn accord. 10 twin suns, throne of tridents waves at his command. Empires stretched from big stones to Mayan sand. Monoliths stacked like Legos blocks no crane could lift. Sonic levitation, gods don't need pulleys or grit. Athena taught Athens, Hephaestus forged veins of gold, but Atlantis spires pierced heaven, stories untold. Ages of virtue, divine blood pure in the veins. No egregious geodesic temples where starlight reigns, but mortality crept in, diluted the grace. Gold turned to rust, hubris eclipsed the god fast.
Of Atlantis, drowned in the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom, where titans still sleep. From Giza to Tiwanaku, the coals etched in awe. As above, so below, cosmic empire of law and princes of plasma.
sacrifice cracked the divine. Pyramids hummed warnings, but they ignored the signs. Sky split with fury, tsunami swallowed their pride. Atlantis sang screaming, but blueprints survive. Baalbek's foundation, stones that defy modern math. 1,000-ton puzzle, gravity's aftermath. Scholars still baffled how they align the stars. They rode cosmic currents, breaching space-time's bars. Now divers chase shadows where crystal cities gleamed. AI scans the ocean, but truth's a half-dream. Freemasons whisper maps in their lodges of lore. Plato's Critias, a metaphor or a war.
Echoes of Atlantis drowned in the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom where titans still sleep. From Giza to Tiwanaku, the cold tension all as above, so below. Cosmic empire of law, 10 princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis where gods walk the sea.
They say Poseidon's seed still flows in our veins. In every megalith, every grid that restrains. The Dogon chart Sirius, Templars guard the flame. But Atlantis tech, it's encoded in our DNA's frame. Zeus's verdict was fire, a flood in ice. Yet the Sphinx still stares, whispering sacrifice. Mortal minds crave power, but miss the design. True kings rule through resonance, not bloodline. Now decode the ruins, their psalms etched in stone. A star-born king's empire, now dust and bone. The hall of records buried neath Giza's cold gaze holds anti-gravity schematics from pre-flood days. Crystal engines hummed, organ fueled their might, till pride turned their frequencies dissonant blight. The Anunnaki fled, Mars colonies crumbled. Leviathan's bones and the Mariana rumbled. But Poseidon's ghost rides the Bermuda's mist. Evolve past the greed or drown in the abyss. Tsunamis taller than gods, crack continents like eggs. Jungles of Egypt drowned, turned to sand in Poseidon's regret. Mammals shrunk to lapdogs, skies choked by volcanic breath. Waves circled the globe thrice, 3 funerals for death. Up Nephistim, rode the arc of frequencies, not wood. Up tetrahedron ziggurat where anti-grav pulses stood. While Atlantis sank, he spliced DNA and quantum seeds. Stashed them in Göbekley's veins and Indus Valley reeds. Volcanic winter's curse, Zeus hit the reset. Scorched the grids, erased the moon-ringed internet. Noah's not a shepherd, he's a star-born archivist. Cracking hermetic scrolls in caves where mushrooms twist. The survivors crawled from mud with amnesiac eyes. Built new gods from scrap metal and fallen skies. Now desert bones whisper where cedars once soared. Man's just a ghost in Atlantis' holographic horde. Blood wasn't water, it was math. A codex purge, Enoch's nightmares digitized in the cosmic surge. As above, so below, the blueprint stays true. Rise from the ashes or drown in what's new. The flood wasn't water, it was math. A codex purge, Enoch's nightmares digitized in the cosmic surge. As above, so below, the blueprint stays true. Rise from the ashes or drown in what's you. Echoes of Atlantis drowned in the deep, the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom where titans still sleep. From Giza to Tiwanaku, their codes etched in awe. As above, so below, cosmic empire of law. 10 princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walk the sea. So when you see Stonehenge, Angkor Wat spire, know Atlantis lives in the quantum choir. The gods were myths, their mentors in code. Rise from the ashes, or repeat what they owe.
20 years, a block every 2 minutes. Hieroglyphs scream their pride, but not a how and what's written. Modern science scratches heads, these structures can't be mimicked. Copper tools, now scholars tripping, logic thinly stretched and twisted. Ran an obelisk, 1,000 tons dragged across the sand. Today's cranes can't lift a fifth, what force moved them by hand? Call the ancients primitive, yo, that's pure delusion. Physicists today need miracles to crack their fusion. The high priest of Kemet mapped the stars with precision, while modern minds stay chained to 3D prison. Land of the lost, esoteric Egypt, hidden with an allegorical crypt. Written in the language of symbolism, advanced knowledge cloaked in simple living. Secrets that rewrite history's episode. As above, so below, the hermetic code. Key of life unlocks the heavenly abode. Conscious matrix, alchemic pyramid ode. The sphinx wears water scars, a flood from ancient skies. Explosives crack the pyramids, no tombs, just hollow lies. Mummies stolen? Nah, that's ego talk, a weak hypothesis. Truths buried in the stars, encrypted in the myths. Sacred geometry, pagan songs, the roots of Christendom. Pythagoras knelt at their feet, Jesus learned the kingdom. Temples mirror Orion, Aztecs trace the same glow. Megalithic GPS, what's buried below. They split the lotus stem, hid wisdom at the core. Solomon's temple, just a copy of what came before. Land of the lost, esoteric Egypt, hidden wisdom, allegorical crypts. Written in the language of symbolism, advanced knowledge cloaked in simple living. Secrets that rewrite history's episode. As above, so below, the hermetic code. Key of life unlocks the heavenly abode. Conscious matrix, alchemy pyramid ode. Iron to gold, alchemy's flame, they mastered the unseen. Telekinetic levitation, Mars dust in their genes. Critics laugh, aliens but the proof's in the plasma. Why is the Dogon tribe no serious? Was a binary drama. Myths of metaphors, the truth's too bright to hold. Scattered in ruins worldwide, a map etched in gold. They call themselves Negeru, gods with cosmic ships. Gifted fire, math and law, then dipped beyond the eclipse. Now academia's gatekeepers mock what they can't measure. The scales of Ma'at weigh soul, not tech or treasure. Zet Tepe dawned when gods walked as king. Left blueprints in Gobekli Tepe and the Nazca line. The Emerald Tablets truth burns through the scholar's denial. We're echoes of starlight reclaiming our trial.
When you stare at the sky, feel the ache in your chest. That's ancestral memory. We're all cosmic guests. The pyramids home a hymn, rising cold and divine. As above, so below, till the world's realigned.
Land of the lost, esoteric Egypt, the truth's a spiral, eternity script. In the language of symbolism, we're gods we've been missing.
Okay, we are back. I'm going to do another quick audio test, and from that point, I'm going to do my countdown and get on with the show. I am going to have to go after this and get in a quick interview if I get confirmation. Sounds good on D Live, so I know if it's good on D Live, the audio is good pretty much everywhere else. So I'm kind of, this is going to be a fast-paced day. So I've got 3 things that I have to do back to back, one right after the other, and it's going to be a pretty exciting day if things work out the way it's supposed to be. Let me go ahead and do my countdown, and I will get the introduction going and just get on with the show. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Cut. I'm Roger Hanson, and I will be your host for today. Today is not just another episode of The Cut, it is the final episode for the season. Now, officially, this is the first season live streaming of The Cut, but I have got previous 15-minute clips that I have put out of The Cut that are older content that I've wanted to save from back in the day, and that's on the Wonderful World of Weirdness, both on YouTube and on Rumble, in their own playlist. Now, this is the actual first season for the live stream, which will be also edited to 15-minute videos so that it will be for people who don't really want to get on and listen to an entire hour of live stream. They can come on and listen to 15-minute pieces at a time, which is fine. It's just a matter of preference. I'm catering to different preferences of listeners on the stream so that they can enjoy it, because I've been there. There's some things I don't want to listen to for long hours. So that being said, if you have missed this episode, or if you do, if you're going to want to listen to it again, you can catch the 15-minute videos, which are put on the Wonderful World of Weirdness on both YouTube and on Rumble. I also put them on my other channel, the one that I had before I got involved with the Wonderful World of Weirdness, and it's called Strange Stories. I put them on there so that you guys can hear them as well. And I also make a podcast for, I believe it's a podcast on there for The Cut. I'm not quite sure. This series actually came from that channel, just so you guys know. That's my original channel for this series. So with that being said, I want to also tell everybody that today's going to be a pretty fast-paced day. I'm doing this recap show of The Cut, and then after this, hopefully, if things go right, I'll be able to do an interview with somebody today, right after this, who I've had the privilege of having a conversation with a few times, and I enjoy what he has to say. So I would love to have him come on and actually do an official interview with me. So that being said, after this, I am going to start setting up to do an interview for Wow Talk, hopefully, with Jahan Satur. He is a hypnotherapist, and we've been having some pretty interesting conversations, me, him, and Sonia Galactic. So I was talking with Sonia and him last night, and we decided, let's do an interview. Let's get an interview going. So hopefully, if I get confirmation, we'll have that set up and ready to go. Now, after that, it gets even better, because I am going to be doing the second episode of Cafe Enigma, presented by Dragus Production. And that's going to be pretty good. I'm also going to have that simulcast on the Wonderful World of Weirdness. So if you guys want to check that show out, come and check that show out. It's going to be pretty interesting. The first episode was just a get together where the panel could come together, introduce themselves, and everybody could get to know one another. And this episode is going to have its first topic, and the first topic is going to be the Siberian fireball. And if you guys don't know what that's about, that's the Tuskegee incident that happened in Siberia at the beginning of the 1900s. So if you're interested in that, stick around, and you can check that out, and hopefully you enjoy that as well. So that's what's happening today. Today is going to be a very, very good day, and we're just going to move right on through it and get it done. I even offered Mr. Robot the opportunity to come in and be on the show, which I know he was interested in some of these topics that I covered. Um, I did it solo, so I figured I would give him the opportunity to come in and be a part of the show if he wanted to. I sent the message on Element Matrix, so that's the only way you can contact Mr. Robot. So if he wants to come in, all he has to do is respond. And with that being said, I will go ahead and get on to some of the stuff that I've discussed this year and kind of go over it and give you a breakdown of all of it and my thoughts about it after the fact, and kind of have a discussion about it. So the first thing that I actually read as a talking point or a topic was that of a modica. Now, a modica is um, a topic that I became curious in back um, in the day. Now Cohen, or I believe is what his name was. He actually had I keep forgetting what the name of the guy is, but he actually did a video stream with Quell, and I remember he did a series on the plume serpent. And this was back in maybe 2015 or so, and I do have to admit, man, I got that was back during my time where I actually, was not only curious about like UFOs and ghosts, but I kind of got into the whole religious fringe side of things, and that's what a lot of Quell, a lot of the stuff that Quell always talks about. It's always related to religion, or most of the time it is. And I listened to it, and it was really interesting. I actually wanted to do a live stream of it back in the day, but the only problem was is I didn't have like the best computer to do quality sound and stuff on that. And I when I first started out, I was um, really struggling with doing that, being able to come out with live streams. And as time went on, I started learning that I had to do that. And by the time I'd finally gotten a computer that was able to make quality audio, I had already done so many other things that I ended up well not not doing it. Now, a little while back, we ended up getting into a topic about I forgot what it was. It was about something, and I remembered this. The naming of America came up in the plume serpent, and that made it to where I ended up going through and pulling up the information on Nancy Planetta's channel, or for Nancy Planetta's show, and posting it on chat and Teams, and that made me think. Well, I wanted to do that before, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it onto the the cut, as the first talking point. And first of all, the one thing I wanted to do when I first started checking into this was I wanted to go off of the premise that they said. You know what I mean? Um, and I wanted to find out who actually named America. Um, because I found out that it wasn't these guys that I had watched their video of who actually brought that up. It actually goes back to well over 100 years. This is a debate that was taking place in the 1800s. Now, a lot of scholars have debunked it, and I do have to admit that when you start doing the research on this, it does lead you down quite a bit of a rabbit hole. But people who are into conspiracy, especially the old ones, the ones that are really good, they're okay with going down that rabbit hole because, like, when you go down these rabbit holes, you find out more interesting things. You know what I mean? And that's what I did. I went and I wanted to find out if what they were saying was true, and it goes off of the premise that Americo Vespucci, in fact, didn't name America, but it was the opposite. Um, Amerigo Vespucci was named after America. So I went and I checked out the facts, and or I tried to check out the facts. And when I did that, I couldn't find any definitive proof if his name was actually changed or if he did actually name America. But what I did find out was this. Um, when he, or during the time period where he was coming down or coming to this continent and supposedly mapping out America, that was during the time period where literally the Mayans actually their entire language was just completely eradicated. A lot of people don't understand that they don't understand like the root words even for the Mayan language is gone before the Spanish uh, came to America. It's just completely eradicated. So the Mayan language that we have um, is is actually a blended language between the Spanish and the Native Americans in that region. I'm getting a lot of flack from Dragus or Mark Watashik. I I spelled the Dragus wrong. He should be lucky because you know how long he should feel lucky because you know how long it was before I could actually say his name correctly. So I mean that's a big deal. But anyhow, I found that out, so I wanted to dig deeper because they don't just talk about Americo Vespucci. Um, I also started getting interested in their theory about the plume serpent because they have like an entire series starting out with the naming of America, mapping America, and the plume serpent. So, first of all, what I wanted to do is I wanted to find out who actually mapped America, and I found out that Amerigo Vespucci didn't actually even map America out. Okay, he came over with a ship, and he wrote some beautiful letters that a European map maker, after the fact, had read and drawn off of his writings supposedly to map America and name America on that map America. Um, Come to find out, there was no geography there. There was nothing that says latitude this, longitude that. There was no actual map making in his writings. He was just really descriptive about the surroundings. And somehow, out of all of that, this man was able to map America. America. So I did some digging on that, and I found out that the same guy who allowed Columbus to use one of his uh, ships to in his voyage to America, the first one, which it was the Anna, the Maria, or the Anta, the Anna, the Maria, and the Santa something. But anyhow, the Anna was the one he owned. Um, After the New World was discovered, he actually was on that same voyage that Amerigo Vespucci was, and he was the one who actually um, mapped out the area. So he was one who did the first official map on the spot right there whenever they were traveling there. Um, I thought that was pretty interesting. So I got that. And that's from going down a rabbit hole and doing research and finding out new things, you know. So I thought that was pretty cool. It didn't, you know, distinguish between if Amerigo Vespucci named himself after America, or anything like that. But I did find that out, so that was kind of cool. After that, I during that time, I was really getting an itch when it comes to linguistics. Okay, I started applying linguistics to a lot of these words when it comes to ancient history before I started doing this series. And then when I got into the cut and I wanted to do this with America or America, I wanted to break it down. And like I said, I found out that the Mayan language was actually just decimated. They really don't even to this day know what the root words for the original Mayan language is. So I became a little bit, I showed a little bit of ingenuity, I guess you could say. What I did is I went and I compared all of the neighboring languages for the local area, which was around Venezuela. And I wanted to check it out and see if the root word for America fit into anything when it comes to the plumed serpent. And I found out that in that region, uh, somewhere in Venezuela, I don't know which area, um, it is actually it is oh, in Venezuela. It's actually a holy place. It has something to do with travelers, um, people who maybe travel from one place to another, and this is a place where a meeting place where these natives would meet up and they would worship, and they thought of it as a very spiritual place. And when I think his name is Dejita, he's the one who landed there, and he landed on a holy place, and that in the first place set off a whole bunch of bad juju. You know, eventually they were driven from the area, but they got very aggressive when they were there. Um, I found out that not only that, but there are beliefs when it comes to Amar or Mar. In that wording, there are languages in that region that that relate that to um, serpent deities. It's very interesting. I've got the episode, I think I did two of them. If you want to check it out on the plumed serpent, I went in and did the linguistics for it, and I even read it out. But I thought that was very interesting. So now let me let me also point out the fact that Quetzalcoatl, okay, he was worshipped more farther north than that region. Okay, so that's one issue that people have about serpent deities being worshipped that far down is because Quetzalcoatl and the plumed serpent, he was worshipped more towards Mesoamerica, which would be Mexico and that surrounding area, in the peninsula, and things of that nature. So I found it odd that in the language groups around Venezuela in the Caribbeans, as a matter of fact, one of the Indians' language group is the Carib or the Carib or something like that. That was one of the language groups that I did use. And sure enough, I mean, they had a lot of things just in the words that related to serpents and the possibility that they were related to some kind of supernatural serpent deity. That was really really interesting. That was something that I thought was I thought was pretty interesting. So after that, I also wanted to bring up some of this other stuff that I was talking about this year. I had discussed topics about the Great Stink of London. That was one thing that I was really glad that I was able to get up. And then the bowels of Paris. I was talking about the work that a lot of people had to do in Paris underground, where they basically they only came up out from under the ground whenever they had to like get provisions or something. But the majority of the time they stayed underground working. I brought that up. I also brought up the Great Conduit. Now, the Great Conduit was a water supply that went into England or London, and that was just prior to the Great Stink of London, which caused a lot of health issues, and thousands of people died because of it. Um, and then I started talking about what was it? Um, I forgot the name of it. It was the pump. Um, but anyhow, there was a cross nest. That's what it was. The cross nest. I was talking about the Great Conduit, which happened before, then the Great Stink, and then cross nest, which was the pumps that were one of the pumps that was created to handle the sewage inside of London because of the epidemic that caused the Great Stink. This was during the same time as the London fire, which took place and burned most of London down. So I find that kind of stuff interesting. And then after that, I also later on, it was later on in the season, I started talking about the Canal of St. Martin. Um, Here in the last, I'd say about 50, 60 years, they started going in and draining the canal and cleaning it out, and they find all kinds of weird stuff. They found entire cars just sunken down one on top of the other in this canal, man. You know, and this is supposed to be like representing the beauty of Paris and stuff. And down in the bottom of the canal, there's all this garbage and stuff. That's well, the first time they did it, they found garbage in there that was hundreds and hundreds of years old, and they went through and cleaned it up. And they've been doing it. I think they did it 3 or 4 times since then, and they've pulled up more stuff. So I found that interesting a while back, and that was something that I wanted to add in as well. So that's some good stuff. If you're just interested and curious about the Canal of Saint Martin in Paris, check that out, and that's actually pretty good. Um, um, And like I said, I wanted to go over these because of the bad attempts that I made earlier in my previous videos in the past. So it was a good chance for me to go through and kind of get through that. I got bombarded by messages just now, so let me. Oh, okay, yeah. Mark Wojcik told me he corrected me. He said that the show starts 8 p.m. Central Standard Time and 7 p.m. or not 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time in in my area. So that means that I am going to have to step it up on my stuff, and I should be ready. I should be ready. Um, that that will make it all fine. Now, I also ended up getting a message from Jahan. Uh, he says he says he just got the computer for the day, and he asked me if he will need to use video. Uh, and no, you don't have to use video, Jahan. If you're listening, I'll tell him in the message. You can go without video, and yeah. So that's all we need. We just need audio going on there. Now Jahan is who I will be interviewing directly after this. So I'm pretty happy about getting that taken care of, and it's been confirmed. So we will we will have that interview. That's good. And I'm glad that this is a recap so that I didn't have to actually do all that crazy reading. I'm so sick of reading. I'll put it to you that way. So that is progress. We are good to go. So now I want to also discuss the Voynich manuscript because that is something that I did bring up this year. I talked about the manuscript. I also talked about the Count of Saint Germain, as well as King Arthur and the Tower Story. All right, so I was able to cover a lot of good stuff that I enjoy when it comes to European folklore and stuff like that. And the Voynich manuscript, that's not even folklore. That is a straight up uh, amazing stuff right there. Like this book or this text, this manuscript has been around for quite a long time, and not even the CIA code breakers can figure out what this book says. They've even applied AI to this stuff today with what they have for AI, and the AI systems don't even know what it means. They know that it's actually a structured system. So they know that it's not just a bunch of gibberish. Okay, they do know for sure that it is a structured system, but they have absolutely no idea what it means. And I do find that interesting with all the technology that we have today. None of it can tell us what the Voynich manuscript means. That's pretty amazing. Now, I do want to also add that this was a part of our previous content that I wasn't able to make good content for during the time. So, besides getting into all of that, one thing else that I did want to mention is something new that I was able to check out, and that is High Brazil. Now, High Brazil is a very, very interesting story that I was really happy to put on this season because High Brazil is an old Irish folklore. especially with the Irish sailors. They talk about this island that is off the coast of Ireland that vanishes and reappears, and that's something else that I want to get into because like everybody's always talking about Atlantis, okay, but nobody knows about High Brazil. Nobody knows about Sandy Island. Now, Sandy Island is another one. For 300 years, this island was always on the maps back during the 17 and 1800s. And now they've decided that that island is not there. Okay? And they have no idea where it is. Satellites have gone over the planet and taken freaking sensory uh, readings of that area, and they've found heat signatures that show that that's where land should be, but still yet they cannot find it. For some reason, Sandy Island does not exist, but it was on the maps for 300 years. That's amazing stuff. So eventually, sometime or another, I would like to go over that as well, add it on, um, because I started with High Brazil, and this is the good stuff. You know what I mean? This is what fantasy is made out of. You know what I mean? When you think about it. So these are things that I do want to actually bring up and talk about again. I thought it was really good that I was able to get into that and actually start talking about it. So before I keep running my mouth, I want to make sure that I'm actually, yeah, I'm doing good. I just want to make sure that I actually do a good show. Um, I At the same time, I want to budget my time so that I have everything set up and good to go. I don't want to mess up my timing at all whatsoever. So it looks like everything seems to be going all right, other than the fact that I made the time messed up on the Cafe Enigma. But to see, even there, I anticipate with that I make adjustments in my scheduling. That's one reason why you guys will find most of my streams at 5 p.m. my time, because most of these streamers don't like doing live streams at 5 p.m. in the afternoon. So I take advantage of the time slot. I get in here, get it done, and it doesn't interfere with any of the other people that want me to come on their shows, you know. So I find it a lot easier to do it that way when it comes to working with other people. So um, I always estimate all that, and I've got it taken care of. So now another thing too that I added in was the Dukkabors. Um, that was one topic that I added in because there's somebody on D Live that uh, we everybody always has a conversation with. She's always been around, and she mentioned them, and I decided to go and check out the history of it. Svetlana is who she goes by on D Live, but she was talking about how her family actually was Dokovar, and were uh, they were well, they were basically they had to leave Russia back in the day because they were persecuted. That's what I was trying to say. And they left Russia and they went to Canada, and that is where the Dokabor ended up settling down, and they became citizens of Canada. And even there, they had to go through persecution and stuff. So whenever she was telling me about that, I figured that would probably be a good topic to put on there. So I wanted to mention that. And I'm glad I did talk about that, because just before uh, we started getting into. I did that one just before we started getting into those topics on my other show, which is Roger's Real Time Talk Show, which I'm finishing up to this next week. I'm doing a recap on that one. Um, but that's political history, and it has to do with this year. It had to do with the history of Europe, the political history of Europe, starting from the French Revolution and going up to now, or coming up to now. So uh, that was kind of a good thing that I had to do that, because that kind of helped me out. Set, basically setting my mind frame before we got into what was going on during World War I and World War II. So I thought that was kind of cool. Now, besides that, I was able to discuss alliances formed in wars all across Europe during the Age of Enlightenment, um, and that was interesting. And how I did that was I wanted to find out how many countries was actually allied together, at least 5 countries before World War I. You know, because everybody makes World War I and World War II out to be so grand because they had all of these alliances. And then somebody had turned me on to this uh, a long time ago. It had to have been about around like 2015 or 16. But they said, um, there were tons of wars that happened in Europe before World War I that had like 5 countries that allied with one another at one point or another. I mean, these were massive wars, you know. Um, so basically, what he was getting at was that World War I was just basically like they were hyping it up, making it into a lot more than what it actually was. You know what I mean? And I checked it out, and there was quite a bit of wars that did take place with at least 5 countries allied together. Now they both on both sides, it might not have been 5 allied countries, but on at least one side there was at least 5 allied countries. I found that very interesting. So after after being able to do that, I also went through and I started talking about the Golden Fleece. Now, the Golden Fleece is in Georgie Rocoxy, um, and those two are very, very interesting stories because, like I was telling you, I went through and covered Saint Germain, but there's this weird story about Saint Germain and how there's a lot of spiritualists in the transcendental movements, um, or the Theosophical Society. They're the ones who are really, really big about that. Blavatsky and all them. They had, or they still have, this theory where Saint Germain actually um, converged with Georgie Rocoxy, okay, um, and became one entity after Saint Germain had passed away. Now there was also a separate belief about Saint Germain before that, but the thing that's really weird about this is they have the original story of Saint Germain, and then it just gets expanded to this super being that evolved into 2 people, and it just gets really weird. Like they start talking about being the ascended master and stuff, and uh, if anybody's ever been into these kind of topics, you know what I'm saying when I say the ascended master. And if you're not, then that's something you really do need to check out because it's mind blowing. That's all I can, because I'm on a restricted amount of time at the moment. I could get into a whole discussion about the Ascended Masters and what that's about. But these people believe that Georgie Rakoczy and Saint Germain came together to create the Ascended Master, and it turned into a huge cult following. So I brought a lot of that up, and I thought that was cool. But then I also wanted to bring the Golden Dawn up because I was just talking about alliances and secret societies during that time. Um, and before, this is previous stuff that I'd covered too. But the thing about uh, the Golden Fleece is you hear people always talking about the Freemasons, and you hear them talking about the Rosicrucians and all of these, but nobody really ever knows what about the Golden Fleece. They also don't know about Beamic laws in Germany, which is very interesting, and this all relates back to Saint Germain. It relates back to Shakespeare. Relates back to Francis Bacon, who at the time was the 007 of his age, Mr. Secret Service, bookkeeper, writer extraordinaire. This is all very, very fascinating stuff. And then when you take a look at Shakespeare saying to be or not to be and holding up the skull, now that's very symbolic. Just so you guys know, that really, really, um, really is very interesting. And of course, I got into heirs to the throne who had died from syphilis, you know, um, and that goes into a whole area of weirdness. Um, I wanted to do something for Weird Science this year about skin disease. That's how much I want to get into this kind of discussions and stuff. But I was happy that I was able to discuss heirs to the throne who actually had died from syphilis during the Middle Ages. I thought that was okay. And I was also able to cover um, Secretum Secretorum. Now that is a cool subject. What's even more cool about talking about that is getting the information and reading it. Okay, this is some cool stuff. This was kind of like these were guidelines for royal family members on how they should present themselves and how they should treat uh, the, their people. You know what I mean, and how they should show dignity and refinement and stuff of that nature. And the weird part about all this stuff is it mentions esoteric practices. It mentions alchemy. There's a little bit of magic in it, and this is supposed to be instructing Christian-based royal families all across Europe. This is the way that you should behave. I found that very, very important. So now there was a part where I got into the ancient kingdoms of Israel and Judah. And the reason why I did that was because there's a lot of misconceptions. Everybody kind of messes up what actually was going on during that time. And I remember there was something that went around where people, and they take this on face value because it's been passed down for 2,000, 3,000 years, but 2,000 years. But anyhow, they take it off face value that the Romans, when they exiled the Jews from Palestine, that they wanted to eradicate their name from the land, and that's farther. That's the farthest from the truth. Okay, um, they did change the coins. They changed the name of the region and the cities, but they did that with pretty much every kingdom that they had to uh, uh, defeat. You know what I mean? When it came to rebellions and stuff of that nature. So that was a regular practice that they did with all of them, not just the Jewish people. You know, where that actually came from was from writers that uh, came along about 100, 200 years after the fact, and they weren't even Jewish. They were Gentiles who wrote this stuff, and people just climbed on board. They just believed it 100%. And that was not the case, you know. So I wanted to go over that. I also went over um, Judea, and I went over Israel and covered some of that. So I did cover that. It felt good doing it too because I've been trying to avoid getting into religious discussions like a passion uh, for quite a while. So I was able to cover that and get it done. Now, finally, what I wanted to do, and I did finally get it done this year, was I was able to discuss topics about Robert Hooke. I wanted to bring Robert Hooke up, Jupiter, the history of science, and then magnetic monopoles. Uh, Magnetic monopoles are somewhat new for me, but somewhat not new. Now, back in the day when I was first getting into all this, I was always cool, or I always thought it was cool watching zero gravity videos where they showed ice, um, frozen metal objects that could float in the air and kind of float above the ground. So, and that's research trying to create magnetic monopoles. Basically, they've been able to make things levitate by doing that, and I thought that was pretty cool. That's how it all started, and eventually I was able to get around and do this topic and talk about it in on this here recently. So I was able to do that, and I mean, I talked about Jupiter. I mean, and all I got to say about that is, you know what, freaking, why would you not talk about Jupiter? You know what I'm saying? Jupiter is like freaking cool, dude. I mean, it really is. Like, you'd have to be a fool not to talk about freaking Jupiter. That's just my take. Then Robert Hooke. That's where I dove into the gossip. Okay, I wanted to show how great these scientists are. You know what I mean? Like Robert Hooke uh, had so much controversy around him. He pissed people off like you would not believe, dude. He even pissed Isaac Newton off. Isaac Newton hated him so much that when he passed away and Isaac Newton became in charge or became a director at what was it the Royal Society, Robert Hooke's picture just mysteriously disappeared and nobody knows where it went. And a lot of people to this day still believe that Isaac Newton was the one who was responsible for it. He hated him so much, and I doubt. I agree with him. I there's a good chance Isaac Newton did it. He stole that dude's freaking portrait. The only portrait of Robert Hooke that actually portrayed his face, and it's gone. You know what I mean? So his face has literally been erased from freaking history. So I was able to get into some historical gossip. So um, that's the cool part. Now that is basically all that I wanted to cover for this topic. I'm happy to say that I was able to cover all of the big stuff. And like I said, I have got to get this all scheduled out, get it going. I have a cool interview that I'm going to be back doing here in about a half an hour. So stick around. I am going to end the stream, but I will be back with another one. And I hope you guys come back on and actually listen to it. It is Jahar uh, Sichir. And like I said, man, I've had good conversations with this dude. He's a pretty good guy. I will hopefully be joined with Sonia. She uh, gave me a heart on the message when I checked to make sure if she to confirm today. So um, it sounds like we are going to be good. She's going to be there with me to do the interview with Jahar, and we're going to have a great episode. Now, I did say that Cafe Enigma was at 8 p.m. my time, and I was corrected by Mark Watashik from Dragus Production. He said that it is actually 7 p.m. my time, and which is Central Standard, and it is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. So uh, that's when it's going to be on. So after we're done with the interview, we're going to go and be setting up for Dragus or Cafe Enigma at 7:30. I believe is what he said. Uh, yeah, yeah, that's what it's going to be. So or no, 6:30. I believe he said. Yeah, it'll be 30 minutes prior. So the pre-show will be 30 minutes prior. So it'll be starting at 6:30. So it's 4:30 here at my time. 5:30. Yeah, I've got 2 hours to do the interview. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, make comments, and I will talk to you later. I'm going to start setting up for this interview, and we will be back here in a little bit.